Before I start the stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. What I'm about to tell you happened 3 years ago. I was in Oregon just doing a regular shipment, but I was happy and enjoying the scenery. Lots of mountains, forests, and lakes. The view there is breathtaking. Some of you might love nature, but unfortunately, many people don't respect it, and that's a major reason behind most murders these days. There are lots of things hiding in nature, in the dark forests, for example. And I'm not talking about bears or wolves. I mean demons, spirits, or even witches. Anyway, I was driving my truck on a road through the mountains, and unfortunately, the road was pitch dark. No lights, not even street lamps. The nearest town was about 200 miles away. I was completely alone on the road, and honestly, I was scared. I know you might find it strange how a truck driver with 15 years of experience can be afraid of the dark, but I really am. It's because of what I've seen. I tried to calm myself down, turned on the radio, and started listening to my favorite music. Driving at night is always a pleasure for me. I love driving my truck at night because looking up at the dark sky really soothes me. The shape of the stars reminds me of the good old days I spent in Europe. Music helped me a lot, but unfortunately, I really needed to go to the bathroom and couldn't hold it any longer. I pulled over and got out of the car. It was a bit cold, so I grabbed my jacket, and believe me when I say that jacket saved my life. I put on my jacket and decided to walk a couple of steps to reach the edge of the forest behind my truck. Nature was calling. I didn't have a flashlight or phone with me, so I decided to rely on the moonlight. After I finished, I was heading back to my truck when I heard a strange noise, like someone trying to cut down a tree. Midnight in a forest on a mountain. It was really strange, but I was sure about the sound because it was super close to me. The chopping noise was loud and clear, like someone was hitting a tree trunk hard with an axe. Honestly, it felt weird to me. And now, let me warn you, what I'm about to do was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. My gut was telling me to stay out of it and run away right then and there. I really should have listened to that feeling, but I ignored it. I decided to check it out alone, thinking maybe someone needed help or something. I started walking toward the sound, going deeper into the forest. It was dark, and I couldn't see well, but I was getting closer to the noise. Suddenly, out of nowhere, in the moonlight, I saw a huge man standing in the dark, holding an axe. He was big and strong, but I felt like he was almost transparent. I don't know how, maybe it was just the poor lighting. I got closer and started smelling a weird odor, something rotten like decaying flesh, filling the whole place. I called out to him loudly, and the static noise stopped immediately. He stood still with his back to me, then slowly turned around to face me. At that moment, my heart stopped from fear. His whole body was covered in wounds, bruised and soaked in blood. The cuts were many and brutal, some dried blood, some still fresh and bleeding. He looked almost not human, like someone thrown into a meat grinder. Inside the woods, I started realizing I'd made a huge mistake. The guy was right in front of me, his face full of anger. He raised the knife and started chasing me like a mad dog. The smell got worse. I was insanely scared. I had two choices, run or fight. Super fast, I made my decision and ran like crazy through Fulham. I could hear him chasing me for about 2 minutes. I was running like crazy, and even though he was huge, he was incredibly fast. I could hear him behind me, and that awful smell was chasing me too. Luckily, a truck was coming close by, and even luckier I'd left it there. I quickly got in, shut the door behind me, and slammed the gas pedal with all my might. From the mirror, I saw him running after me like a madman, trying to hit me with an axe. He hit the truck several times, but I managed to get away and didn't stop until I reached the city. I calmed down, got out of the truck to check the damage. The axe left cracks and marks on the truck. I don't even know how I managed to escape him. I guess I was luckier than I deserved. When I called the police, They told me they couldn't really help, but I was determined to find out what happened, so I started digging into it myself. That's when I came across an old urban legend about a woodcutter who died long ago. They call Oregon the Bandaged Woodcutter because his body is covered in bandages, and that makes him really angry. His angry spirit lures adventurers to the forest and kills them with an axe. You've been a truck driver for 15 years on different roads, so you're used to facing all kinds of things, from roadblocks to wild animals, and now the bandaged woodcutter who tricks curious people by chopping wood late at night. Our guy got curious and went to check out what was going on, and that's when the chase between him and the evil spirit of the bandaged woodcutter began. But when he opened his truck to grab his jacket, he'd left it behind. It was open, that's why he said the jacket flipped his life around. The story I'm about to tell you happened a year or two ago. I don't remember exactly. We were in summer, and it was super hot, but let me tell you, no matter how hot it gets, it won't be as hot as Arizona. The heat was real, literally felt like hell. But even with all that heat and the high temperature, I love driving my truck in Arizona. The empty roads and the desert stretching as far as you can see are some of the things I really enjoy. I was driving all day on Route 85. After a while, I took a long break in the morning. The sun was up and lighting up the sky. The sky looked really beautiful, so I opened my window to feel the warmth of the air. Anyone who drives a truck will know what I mean. So right now, I'm driving my truck alone on the road, enjoying nature and the endless desert stretched out in front of me. When night came, I had to stop driving. Like I said before, I love driving my truck at night. Anyway, it was almost midnight, and I was completely alone on the road. The darkness made the desert feel really scary. My mind started filling up with thoughts. I began thinking about my life, about the love of my life who left me, and about death. Death feels really gentle when you think about it. Last night, I saw something from afar. I looked at my watch, and it was almost midnight. About a mile away, I saw a faint red light, like car tail lights. I immediately thought someone must be stuck on the road and needed help. I decided to stop and try to help, especially since I was starting to feel bored. It was a really nice night. When I got closer to the car parked on the side of the road, I saw it was an old model. Couldn't really tell which one because it was dark, but it looked really nice and was green. There was a couple standing next to the car, waving their hands, asking for help. I parked my truck behind them, and strangely, I felt the temperature drop. I started feeling really anxious, but I ignored it. As I got closer to them, I noticed something that scared me a bit. Their clothes were super old, like from the 1950s. I also caught a nasty smell, kind of like rotten fish. Still, I decided to ignore it. When I got closer, I asked them what was going on. The husband was tall and big, and he started explaining that they were just driving when suddenly the engine started smoking and the car completely broke down. After he finished explaining, I popped the hood and was shocked to see thick smoke pouring out. I started waving the smoke away from my face with my hands, and as soon as the smoke cleared and I could figure out the problem, I felt something hard hit me. I fell flat on my back, out cold, with no resistance. When I started to come to, my vision was still blurry, but I knew I was at the back of my truck. I tried to move, but I was tied up tight. The two guys were standing in front of me, smiling and not moving. Before I could say a word, one of them grabbed a knife and started cutting a piece of flesh from my arm. They were smiling while doing it, moving slowly and calmly, like they owned all the time in the world. Blood was everywhere, and the pain was so intense I felt like I was going to pass out again. But just before I lost consciousness, I heard the sound of another truck horn breaking the silence. The loud noise at night was getting them closer. They looked through the open truck door and then disappeared. No, I'm not joking or exaggerating. They literally vanished like smoke or a cloud or something like that. Like I said, my vision was blurry because of the pain and the hit to my head, but I did see another truck's tire with a raised rim coming down from his truck, getting closer to me. As soon as he untied the rope I was tied with, I lost consciousness again. I woke up in the hospital and saw my hands were tied. The man who saved my life was sitting by my bed. His name was Adam. Since then, we've been really good friends. I was determined to find out and understand what had happened. It turned out that there's an old legend about a couple who died on Route 85 back in the 50s. They kept asking for help from passing cars, but no one stopped for them. They died out there, and since then, people say they appear and take revenge on anyone who stops to help them. I could have been one of their victims if Adam hadn't shown up just in time. I like the truck driver because he knows about lesser-known legends, stuff I never heard before, like today's story about the couple who died on the road because no one helped them. Since then, they've been getting back at drivers. If Adam hadn't arrived when he did, I think I would have been next. This guy was about to die in a mysterious way. When it comes to discussions about whether the soul gets stuck, or if it can be killed, or anything like that, let me tell you, people outside are convinced about this stuff. I'm translating and analyzing the story based on their culture and beliefs. Today's story is a bit strange and different because it doesn't take place in the United States. It's one of those stories that happened in Europe. And let me tell you, Europe is an old continent. People have been living there for a long time. But here's my weird take. I'm convinced that before humans existed, there were other things living here. I'm one of those people who truly believe in monsters, and I'm really into the spiritual stuff, all because of some experiences I've been through and seen. Now, something that might surprise most of you is that European horror is totally different from American horror. Things in Europe are way simpler and easier. So, let's start our story. I remember it was a cold day in December, like any winter day. Short days, long and dark nights. Back then, I was still working and freezing my ass off. I was driving a small truck, windows closed, sitting in the warmth, feeling happy and content. I was out cutting through roads, visiting towns and villages. I'd been driving since morning and I started feeling tired. I was really hungry and saw a gas station I knew, and I knew their food was pretty good. So I pulled over. It was around 8 p.m. Here in the Balkans, that means it's super dark because the sun sets around 4 p.m. in winter, so it was already nighttime. I grabbed my jacket, got out of the car, the air was freezing, and walked toward the gas station. I looked into the darkness and saw a strange shape. I couldn't tell what it was because it was so dark, but it looked kind of human. I thought it was weird for someone to be standing there in the pitch black, but honestly, I was hungry, so I ignored it and went inside the station. I grabbed some gas and smiled because of the rush that hit me as soon as I walked in. I greeted the old guy sitting at the cashier. Even though he looked like he was in his 50s, he seemed strong and brave. I walked over to the sandwich fridge, picked one out, then headed to the shelves and grabbed a few things like my favorite type of nuts, 2 packs of cigarettes, and some energy drinks. I paid at the cashier, sat down at a table, and started eating. The sandwich tasted really good, but I guess I was too hungry to notice the ingredients, and it turned out there was a kind of cheese in it, which I'm allergic to. After having some dairy products, I started feeling pain in my stomach, so I rushed to the bathroom. I stayed inside for about 20 minutes until I was done. I got up, knowing I'd be dealing with this problem all night. I was about to leave the bathroom when I noticed something strange. The music the cashier had been playing was now completely off. My heart started pounding fast. It was telling me something was wrong. I stood there hesitating for a moment before deciding to get out of there as fast as I could. I grabbed my stuff and headed toward the cashier to say goodbye, but he wasn't at his spot. I looked around, but there was no sign of him, like he had just vanished. I was just about to leave when I happened to glance at a mirror hanging on the wall behind the cashier. What I saw was terrifying. The cashier was lying on the floor under the counter, but he wasn't alone. There was another guy behind him holding his head, eyes closed, both frozen in place. The mysterious guy looked calm, but the cashier was pale, clearly scared and in pain. The guy behind the cashier's face wasn't clear because he was wearing a cap pulled low over his face. I just stood there, frozen, not understanding what was happening. Then I gathered my courage and tried to get out of there, but my damn shoe. The voice of the creature suddenly turned toward me so fast, it was unreal. That's when I knew it was over. I saw it in the mirrors as it stood up. Its head started showing from behind the counter. It was staring at me with pure rage, its face pale and looking really evil. My eyes teared up from fear. Its eyes were red with this crazy, hateful glare. Its teeth were yellow and sharp. I felt like I was facing some kind of monster. Then it started growling fiercely, and I knew I had to get out of there immediately. In less than a second, I was out and running toward my truck. I heard it coming out from behind the counter, chasing me, but as soon as I reached the truck, I looked back. He wasn't chasing me. He was just standing at the gas station door smiling. I'll never forget that smile as long as I live. I called the police and told them everything that happened. A little while later, I moved to the United States and never saw that thing again. A lot of vampire stories happen in the Balkans or nearby countries, so I'd say that thing was a vampire, sucking the cashier's blood under the counter because it saw him in the mirror. Everyone knows vampires don't show up in mirrors. Music. That's a basic horror fact, so that's my take on it. This thing could be a demon from the demons that feed on human fear, and it was feeding on Kesher's fear. And with that, we've reached the end of today's stories. There are other stories too. Music.